Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important segment, and it describes or explains why President Trump had such a difficult time with media, intelligence operatives, the American political establishment. This segment highlights opportunities lost and 2020 hindsight. We're going to go into how President Trump could have protected himself from an absurd allegation called Trump Russia, could have protected himself from Jeff Sessions, people like Jeff Sessions, Robert Mueller, and others who helped create and fabricate this absurd myth that Trump worked with Russia, and therefore voters chose Trump over Clinton. You notice the people who cry and moan and complain most about democracy being tarnished are the ones who tarnish democracy the most. They're the ones who, for 4 years, blamed others for their failures, blamed Putin for their failures without a shred of evidence. Citing intelligence reports isn't evidence. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Get this segment going. It's very, very important. Business Insider, Attorney General Bill Barr almost quit last year over Trump's attempt to fire FBI Director Chris Wray. Attorney General Bill Barr wanted to quit last spring when Trump tried to fire FBI Director Christopher Wray. Insider has learned Trump publicly voiced dissatisfaction with Wray, who sometimes contradicted the president's claims. Wray was not fired and was able to hold on to his role under the Biden administration. Last spring, so this is an article from Kelsey Vlamis and C. Ryan Barber, Business Insider. Last spring, when President Donald Trump was considering firing FBI Director Chris Wray, Attorney General Bill Barr almost resigned in protest, a person briefed on the deliberations told Insider. The person said Barr went to the White House for a meeting and was introduced to a top counterintelligence official in the Trump administration who had previously worked at the FBI. When Barr realized he was being suggested as a replacement for Wray, he left the room. When told of the plotting, Barr almost resigned in protest, according to a person briefed. Okay, it was the closest Wray, who has held on to the position under the Biden administration, ever came to getting fired. During Trump's tenure, the person briefed on the matter said. Okay, Trump had expressed dissatisfaction with Wray, who he had nominated to lead the bureau after his firing of James Comey in 2017, which prompted the investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller into whether Trump had sought to obstruct the Russia investigation. Okay. When you look at what President Trump had to contend with, there has never been a president. Look at history. Find an American president that came into the White House being investigated, and then find an American president that terminated the employment of anyone in the executive branch, which James Comey was a part of, who was then subsequently investigated for engaging in his constitutional authority. It was within the powers of the presidency under Donald J. Trump to let Comey go and replace him with anyone he wanted. That's number one. Number two, and this is one of the reasons you should share this segment, hit subscribe to this channel if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, and Salon, Jerusalem Post, the Federalist, other publications. Go to hagoodman.com, and you can see my debates there. If you want to support my voice long-term, my Patreon is below in the description section, in the pinned comment. Number one, he had the right to terminate Comey's employment. Number two, Jeff Sessions recused himself, and anyone who told you to trust Jeff Sessions was deliberately trying to deceive and hurt you. But what he should have done was the following. He should never, ever have turned his back on Michael Flynn. What President, in hindsight's 2020, I know there are people who are like, well, why are you criticizing Trump? I'm explaining what President Trump could have done and the pitfalls that he fell into. And again, I understand that they set him up and framed him. But at the same time, there are things that he could have done to combat everything that was that was going on against him. The second that he forced Michael Flynn out of the national security position, so he was national security advisor. The second that Michael Flynn was forced out, so the first issue was Jeff Sessions. Okay, so he nominated Jeff Sessions. That was a horrible, horrible nomination. Sessions was forced to recuse himself. He didn't have to recuse himself, by the way. He didn't commit perjury. They were going to try to get him on perjury because of speaking to... Sergei Kislyak, by the way, was like one of the people that Democrats used to entrap or ensnare Jeff Sessions, Michael Flynn. Jeff Sessions and Michael Flynn. Jeff Sessions should never have recused himself. He didn't commit perjury, and if they tried to go after him for perjury, Trump should have simply said, okay, I'll pick a new attorney general. It's interesting. Trump was inadvertently loyal to a fault, which is not what he's known for, but inadvertently he was loyal to a fault. Number one, he shouldn't have picked Jeff Sessions. Sessions shouldn't have recused himself. Number two, and the most important issue here, he should never have turned his back on Michael Flynn. Ever. I'm not right about everything, but when I give my analysis and my evaluation, I'm pretty spot on. And I said, this was about 4 years ago, in 2017. 17, 18, 19, 20, going on 21, almost 5 years ago, I said that day, during the time that Flynn was being forced out, I said Trump should not turn his back on this man. If he turns his back on Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who President Obama appointed as the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, if he turns his back on Michael Flynn, he's giving them all the ammunition they need. He should never have done that. Okay, he should never have done that. Let me just go ahead. Okay, Michael Flynn, Defense Intelligence Agency. Okay, so that's right. Okay, of course, he was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under President Obama. Once he did that, he gave them a green light. Once President Trump did that, he then eventually fired Comey. But he gave them a green light to do whatever they wanted to him. And this is a lesson in life. When you're dealing with bullies, which is the American political establishment towards Trump, not the other way around. When you're dealing with people who just want to harm you, undermine you, disparage you, when you give them an inch, they take a mile. When you give them a finger, they take the entire arm. When you give in, they want to go ahead and they see that as weakness. When President Trump didn't stand behind Michael Flynn, and prior to that, when President Trump appointed Jeff Sessions, who was the worst attorney general of all time, the worst, without a doubt. My God, he had his own administration stabbing him in the back 1,000,000 times over. But when he didn't defend Michael Flynn, he had no political momentum going into the termination of Comey's employment. Once that happened, Sessions capitulated immediately and said, oh my goodness, And the absurd notion that Comey had the goods on Trump and that he was trying to obstruct the Russia investigation. There was never a reason to investigate Trump-Russia. It was completely and utterly fabricated. There was never a shred of evidence, not even circumstantial evidence. The dossier was purchased. Alexander Downer was gossip. The third-party tech firm CrowdStrike was outsourced by the Democratic Party. They complained about democracy being undermined. They did it to themselves and to the country. And they had media, and they had Hollywood, and they had social media algorithms, and they had... So President Trump came in not knowing his limitations, not knowing that they were investigating him, not knowing that if he capitulated, he gave an inch, they would take a mile. He gave a finger, they would take the entire arm. This is an important segment, ladies and gentlemen. William Barr is part of the establishment. He actually defended President Trump, but at the same time, there was a limit to his loyalty. There was a limit to what he... President Obama came in with a loyal, strong... So did Bush. Most presidents come in with an administration that's beholden to the president who won the election, not Trump. And President Trump didn't realize, he did not realize the forces against him. And he did not realize that people within his own administration were also against him. He did not realize that there are certain people you stand with and there's certain people you just jettison. He did not realize all of these things. And when you have this story now that William Barr was about to resign, if Christopher Wray was let go, Christopher Wray is going to put the FBI first, Trump second, or even 10th on the list. Trump did not have an administration that backed him. It takes 3 years. I read a while ago, I forgot where, but it takes 3 years for an incoming president to actually wrestle control away of the United States government from his predecessor. So, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now.